Let's see. We might be up. No, I think it's still connecting. Nope, we are live.
All right.
Yeah, it says it hasn't connected, but I see a friend has already shared it, so they're faster on it than I am. All right, that's good. Okay, well, hello everybody. It's Uncle Grumpy. Welcome to Grumpy Tonight. And I want to give a big thank you to my friend for joining us, our state floor leader, Representative John Echols. John, thank you for being here. How are you and the family?
We're doing good. Always fun to be on, my friend. We're like everybody, staying at home and enjoying some family time together.
Is everybody healthy?
So far, everybody's healthy. So far, so good. No sicknesses in my house.
Okay, well, that's what matters right now. It's pretty crazy out there. I was telling you before we went on here that I went to Walmart today. I had to do what I'm now calling hunting, okay? Because I keep hearing that they're going to run out of this or they're going to run out of that, and so since sometimes you may have to go to two stores, I know I've been there a couple times now when they didn't have eggs, so I'm calling it hunting. This is hunting, what, suburban style? Is that what that would be?
That's right.
Is that about right? Okay, so it's different than we do it over there in Muskogee. You know, out there we have deer in the front yard, and if you're that hungry, well, that's what the shotgun's for. You know,
That's right. I know we made a Walmart run today with my wife, and she freaked out because they had her favorite paper towels, which they hadn't had in forever. Don't ask me which kind they were, but whatever they were, she was really happy to finally get them.
yeah, you can tell her that she's lucky because that was one of the only things that my store didn't have was my favorite paper towels.
That's right.
So
They're becoming more important.
yes, they are. Yes, those paper products. I had half a basket of paper products.
Right.
I did notice, and I want to tell everybody this, because I've heard that some stores, some Walmarts and other places in the city don't have certain things like toilet paper and other stuff. I can tell you that the Walmart in Muskogee, where I have to go, which is just a few miles from the house, has had that. They've been low sometimes, and they don't have every brand, but they have it. And today they had almost everything. There was very few empty spots, and so, you know, they're doing a pretty good job of keeping up. Now, I want to ask you about that, and we'll start with that. I talked to the lady working the door about how many people were allowed in the building, and I was surprised, and she was reluctant to tell me, but it was almost 800, and it has to do with the square footage, I guess. And I'm trying, and I don't mean to come down on you right off the
No,
bat
you're good.
here with the hard one, but does that really seem like we're or physically distancing enough? Now, she also said that store's never got anywhere near that many since this happened. So it's never, and there wasn't that many in there today. But it sounds like they could have packed in a whole lot more, and everybody, and again, as usual, well, more than last time, but about 20% of the people were wearing, like myself, were wearing masks. About 2% maybe of us were wearing gloves, and everybody else was wearing nothing. And in groups, couples.
Yeah,
So,
going. So there's a little delay between you and I, Chris. No more than a couple seconds. But yeah, no, I agree with you. And you said Muskogee. I think you meant Mustang, the Walmart in Mustang.
oh,
Um,
yes,
yeah,
sorry.
that's okay down by us. So I think when you're talking about the social distancing guidelines, it deals with how many square footage is in the whole building. And what I've seen stores doing, like the Walmart by us, so I go to the one in South Oklahoma City, normally on I-240, or I'm sorry, I-240, on I-44 and 104th Street, or I go up the road to the Crest. Sometimes those are the two closest to me. And they've put like X's on the lines and the checkouts because one of the biggest issues obviously is checking out to help people keep their distance. And then the next issue is obviously us showing some good sense when we're around each other, walking in the aisles and stuff. I think that's important too because, you know, there's a growing divide right now as to what the next step should be. I mean, if you go on a good way to look at the growing divide is to go on any of my social media posts, because I don't block people and I let everybody talk. And I always am polite. Well, at least I think I'm always polite. I try my best to be, and to answer legitimate questions. And what that tends to do is kind of draw out both sides. So there's a strong debate going on. Are we doing too much? Are we doing too little? All that's going on right now. And I think there's going to have to be, no matter what happens, an awful lot of self-government going on. I mean, Chris, like what you're talking about, we need to be wearing masks whenever possible. This is going on for the near future. This is going to be a change. We eventually are going to reopen commerce. I don't know if we reopen it May 1st. I don't know if we reopen it in July. I don't know when that happens. But when we do, we're going to have to take some self-responsibility. So I'm glad you brought it up, and it's a great time for me to say it. I mean, people need to, I know it feels weird, I know, but we're going to get used to it. And I think we just need to get used to masks for a while. That's going to be the new normal till we come up with something for either some type of treatment or some type of a treatment regimen or a vaccine. And I think there are people now that are dealing with that reality by hanging on to some misconceptions like COVID's not real somehow, or I'm seeing there's a big post going around Facebook that deals with the April 1st numbers that show as of April 1st, there's roughly been 1/3 the amount of COVID deaths as there had been flu deaths this year. But they were posting it lately. It was a little frustrating to me because they're posting on April 12th, 13th, and 14th, April 1st numbers. What was shocking about that is in 12 days, we moved from the same amount of 1/3 the amount of COVID deaths as compared to flu deaths till we passed flu deaths with COVID deaths. It's the power of exponential growth. Now, again, COVID's not the end of the world. We're going to get through it. But that's why I do my best to just put out accurate information, because there is a line in between COVID is the new bubonic plague, which I don't think it is, and there's a group that's trying to make themselves feel better by just saying, it's no big deal.
Yeah,
let's just deal with the facts.
I'm looking here at the numbers just to share the numbers that you shared today. You share your numbers daily, and I try and share them on my page. We have, as of when you posted this morning, we had confirmed cases, positive cases, 2,263. Total cumulative negative specimens to date, 26,956. And let's see, total tests, I guess, is 29,098. Now, this is the thing that's actually not a very high number. Now, it's a super high number to anybody who knows somebody whose family member this has happened to, okay? And I don't want to make light of that at all. But we've only had 123 deaths. So are we doing better? Is it not as bad? Is Oklahoma not going to get hit like the other states? Louisiana's not that far away, and they're in dire straits down there. They're bad.
It's rough in Louisiana. Oklahoma really is doing well. 2/3. Now, I do hear all the time that everybody had a pre-existing comorbidity. That's not true. But 2/3 of the deaths did have some type of pre-existing comorbidity, high blood pressure, cancer, something like that. That also leaves 1/3 of the deaths that didn't, though. Oklahoma has really done a great job. And what it is looking like, and these numbers change daily, and I'm glad you pointed that out. Anybody watching, if you go to John Echols for House, every single day I post the update from the House of Representatives and the Department of Health, and I put very little commentary. I mean, I'll put some, but most of it is just the facts, because I believe facts are power. And if you look at that, Oklahoma appears to really be doing well. So here's what's going to happen, so nobody's shocked. We eventually are going to, Governor Stitt today, I think did the right decision and allowed elective surgeries to move forward in 1 week. And I think that was smart. We appear to have enough PPE to handle what we're doing. We need to move forward with elective surgeries, start getting the economy going. But guys, as we get the economy going, you're going to see a spike. Then it's going to go back down. Doesn't matter when we get the economy going, that's what's going to happen. That is what it is. I don't think we're going to end up everywhere New Orleans is, but we've got to watch those numbers daily to make sure nothing gets out of control. But right now, Oklahoma's sitting in a good spot.
Now, one of the
And
questions, I'm sorry, one of the questions somebody had asked me to bring up with you is, are these elective surgeries that necessary? Is that where we should be starting with surgeries? Or should we be starting with something else? Was the surgery lobbyist just able to get their foot in the door? No, and I don't mean that as an insult.
Yeah,
I know how politics works.
I know. Yeah. So
why are they first?
Here's why they're first. Elective surgeries are what fund our healthcare system. So I would have people say, well, I don't understand. There was a hospital in Tulsa that laid off 600 people, but you're telling me you have all these hospital problems. Those both are true. They laid off those people because ER centers and hospitals lose money. They all lose money. It's these elective surgeries, those make money. So so the next question would be, why did we ban them in the first place? Well, it was a PPE problem. We didn't want PPE being spent on elective surgeries, which could be anything from a gallbladder surgery because it's non-ruptured, a knee replacement, a hip replacement. I mean, for the people that are getting these, they think they're pretty important.
Right. Yeah, I understand that.
That's the old joke of major versus minor surgery. Major's when it happens to me, minor's when it happens to you. That's the major minor distinction. But that's why I don't think it had anything to do with the surgery lobby as much as it was, we're looking at the economic impact of the healthcare system and our hospitals, because they're ramping up their loss leader, their ER, and their ICUs lose a ton of money. And as soon as the PPE was safe, then we allowed it to move forward with these other surgeries. And I think what you're going to find, as long as we stay good with PPE, those will move forward. I think the moment we don't, I definitely would support the governor in saying, hey, no more. No, we need to stop them at that point.
Okay, that's another thing I want to talk about. The governor, they mentioned this issue, but also about the budget. I had some questions about that. Could you explain that again? Because I know we've got almost $1 billion in savings, and I know when we've talked about this is why I threw out the idea of possibly doing a rec bill now, because our economy has been relying on oil, and every time something like this happens, or anything happens drastic where people stop vacationing, then Oklahoma can't pay their bills. And so, where are we at with that? I mean, what's the money situation now with that $1 billion in savings and the shortfall over the next 1 and 2 years?
So let me give everybody the 50,000-foot budget view. Now, I'm the floor leader, not the budget chair, so I don't pretend to know as much about the budget as, say, Kevin Wallace. But the 50,000-foot view is this. We have a budget shortfall. We have $1.2 billion in savings. To put that number in perspective, during the last economic downturn, we had $600 million in savings. So we have double the savings we had during the last economic downturn. What we had to do, because we ended up having a revenue failure, it was a combination of oil prices and COVID. Neither one sitting alone. It was both of them that kind of hit us together. We've passed 3 bills that then filled that, took around $400 million out of savings, put them into the budget to stabilize this year's budget. There's a whole other fight going on between the governor and the legislature. I'm going to skip right over because we could spend another hour on that. But there's some issues there. The next day, so this year's budget is stabilized, but we had to spend about $400 million. 2021's budget, so obviously if we want a stable budget, that's another $400 million, right? Because if that's the shortfall, that's the money we're going to have. We're going to fill that through a combination of things. Yes, we will be digging into savings at this point. We're going to need to. It's rainy days for when it's raining, and brother, it's time to build an ark. It's raining. So we're going to take some of that money out, but there'll also be some targeted cuts. We've been working very closely with agencies, and there's been several agencies that have come to us and said, hey, we took some time off, all this social distancing lessened some of our expenses. We can live without X number for a while. What we're not going to do is let things like senior nutrition get cut and healthcare get cut, and we're not going to do things that affect core services because that just doesn't make sense when you're in the middle of an economic downturn. And I would expect a budget. Boy, I would expect a budget by the first or second week in May. We have to be done by the last week in May, but I think we're darn close on rolling out a budget and then going out and passing it.
Now, this is a concern of mine. I like fiscal conservative. I can't even say the word. You know what I'm talking about. I like seeing the state save money. Okay, but I am concerned that trying to cut. I'm glad to hear it's targeted cuts because the way I had heard it explained, it was going to be like 1% across the board, and across the board cuts I just don't think work. And we don't even know what the state is going to look like a year from now. So we don't know where we're going to need more government or less government yet. So when and how would those cuts be decided and made?
Well, when in doubt, I think we need less government, but I think there are times we definitely need the services that people are relying on in the middle of and I know that's something you and I share, like our baseline is less government, both of us.
Of course.
Absolutely. But I think 1% cuts across the board is lazy budgeting. I mean, when you and I would have to cut our budget, we wouldn't say, well, I'm cutting everything 1%. I'm going to spend 1% less eating out. I'm going to spend 1% less on my mortgage, 1% less on my electric bill. That wouldn't work. We wouldn't do that. So, and that's not what we're doing on the budgeting process. The budget team is literally meeting with these agency heads and going over line by line. Okay, what expenses did you save as a result of being shut down? Because there are a lot of savings that are going on. I mean, you have agencies that are not out in the field. They're not sending people out. That lots of extra costs have been saved, and saying, all right, if you save those, you were fully funded. How can we use that to not cut core services? Because here's where I do agree with you. When in doubt, I want smaller government. I love savings. But when we are in the middle of a pandemic, this is not the time to have drastic cuts to government services. This is the time to try to help people survive and to set up better systems.
Okay. Well, all right. I know we've only got till 8:30, so I want to get back to what you were saying. You have until you're thinking we may see a budget that we can actually look at and start yelling at you about at the first week of May. And you have to have it done by the end of May. I'm very concerned about this. How are we going to get in there and influence you guys? Because I'm lobbying from home, and it's not nearly as successful as it is when I can go in there and grab someone by the ear hair and say, come here, I need you to do the right thing. And so I'm feeling like the government's been stripped away from us to some degree, and I'm worried about that. How can we get involved in something between now and the end? And aside from the budget, where are we at on the delivery? And I know one person on here, Debbie Holden, has explained that she says the governor has the authority under these emergency rules to grant the delivery waiver right now. So where are we at with all of that?
So let's go through. Chris, I disagree. You do a great job lobbying me all the time. So I want everybody listening to know. But here's legit. So let's own it, right? There are lots of things that are not perfect right now. And one of the things that's the most imperfect is we're not at that Capitol every day. I mean, it's much better when we're all in one place. I mean, remember, I've only got 4 years left. I think a lot about assuming my citizens reelect me in November. I still think all the time what this state's going to look like when I'm done. What's that building going to look like? And I want everybody up at that Capitol so I can watch them. And I get how frustrating it is now to not have that. So what I would say is keep reaching out to whoever your members are, just like you do, on issues that people care about. And on that regard, let's talk specifically about delivery. So you've got Scott Fettgetter and I very much feel like crying out in the wilderness over delivery. I totally agree. Debbie's 100% right. The governor could order delivery right now. He has that ability. Both Representative Fettgetter and I have asked him to make that order. It makes all the sense in the world. We're already doing it with alcohol, for goodness sake. Obviously, I passed that bill through the House. It is a House priority bill, so I'm in the process. If you're a constituent of House District 90, it's good to have the floor leader as your member because I do have some strokes. So I made the
That's
list of bills.
that's the entire reason I live here, John. That's why I moved to this part of the state. But go ahead.
Well, it does help. And I've made the list of bills. It is on our list. We'll be negotiating with the Senate on that. And what I can tell people is it's still a priority. So I can tell them two things. I'm going to do everything I can on delivery to get it done. It makes all the sense in the world. We've already passed it in the House. And understand I'm not going to give up. So if we don't get it done this year, we have my commitment. I'm going to file it again next year. So that's one of my arguments to get it done is I'm not going away. I mean, I'm not. The only way I'm going away is if I get beat in November. If not, I'm going to keep sending it over there every stinking year because it makes sense for people. And then as to I think your third question, I can't remember what the third question was.
I don't remember off the top of my head. It's more of the same. How are we going to get in there? I mean, I know you say phone calls are great, but and yeah, I message you. I call the LA of my senator. I talk to her every week. And I message others. So I've been staying in contact and sending emails to all leadership on the Senate side.
Yep.
But I've spent enough time in the Capitol now. I know I'm a newbie. Okay, it's only been a couple of years, but I've figured it out kind of quick. And I know that they're all good people at heart if you can get with them individually. Okay, but the government as a whole, the groupthink scares me, and
I agree.
I don't like groupthink. And when those of us that don't have money to get their attention to help, because we know it's an election year, and unfortunately we're not contributing to any campaigns right now. I know by going down there I can talk them into just about anything because they'll all do the right thing. But again, in this circumstance, it's hard to cut through all that. So are we going to open up the Capitol in any way? Are we going to get back in at all this session as a lobbyist? I'm a registered lobbyist, so I mean, if that's what it takes.
Yeah, so I think I hope we are. So that's a good question. I can't tell you a yes or no because you know me. Our entire relationship, if I tell you something's going to happen, it's going to happen. That's why I'm quick to tell you if I don't know. If it's safe, yes. I mean, nobody wants there to be a shutdown at that Capitol. And especially me. I mean, I thrive off face-to-face contact, meeting with people. I mean, that's the only thing I'm good at. I'm useless when I don't get to do that stuff. So I enjoy that part of it. And especially, all the rules, obviously, you've experienced in my office where constituents come first, members come second, and lobbyists, if they're there, can have whatever time of mine is left.
I learned that last year, and that's why I moved this year.
And you were always in the front of the line. And that's the way it is. And no, it's constituents, members, and then everybody else. So, and by constituents, other citizens in Oklahoma. But I hope so, Chris, but I can't tell you that that's for sure what's going to happen because we don't want to create an unsafe environment. And that's the hard part. Let me tell you the commitment I will make, though, that I think may make people feel a little bit better. Since I've been involved as floor leader for these 4 years, every single bill we have heard on the House floor, I've published a daily agenda the day before. And a lot of people have gotten used to that, but for 100 years, nobody ever did this in politics. Nobody. This is kind of a huge thing that we do that's very different. I'm continuing to do that, and what I'm even trying to do while we're not in session is post it 2 days in advance, so people know the exact bills. And Chris, the other commitment, I'll come on here whenever we know when we're coming in, so everybody knows, so I can talk about what bills we're going to hear, because I think it's more important than ever. I view that little function that I do more important than ever. When we came in here to hear the budget bills, I had about 5 members of House staff making sure the agenda for Monday was posted on Saturday. Well, and a human does that. I mean, it doesn't create itself. And we were up and we got it posted Saturday night. So there were 2 days in advance. And I know it seems small, but the reason I do that is because we deserve that level of transparency. And when I'm out of politics, I'm going to demand it from the next floor leader. And it's a lot easier for me to say, I expect you to do it. I know how hard it is because I did it, but I still expect it. And for anyone watching, that's on www.okhouse.gov. And I'll come on here and tell you as soon as we have dates that we know we're coming in.
Okay. I want to get real specific before we wrap it up because we've got 5 minutes left. Real
Okay.
specific, John. Um, are we going to get a cannabis bill through this year? And is it going to be as we had hoped and everybody been talking about that we thought Representative Fettgetter was working on, a combined bill that does things like pulls 320 or 3227, 3229 and puts them into 3228 and runs the combined and puts everything we need this year into one bill that has an emergency clause on it already, be it 27 or 28. They both do.
So real direct answer, I can promise you that would pass the House. I can't make promises in the Senate, but I can tell you Representative Fettgetter is working on it right now. We've already passed everything that would be in that combined bill. We've already passed that in several bills, so I'm confident. And it either had my name or Representative Fettgetter's name on it. And we're working on that. That's one of the House priorities. I can't tell you for sure till I know what the Senate's going to do with that. And we'll be talking with them and figure out where their priorities are too.
Okay, but what we do know is that you're only going to hear bills that you know are going to pass because in the circumstances, there's no sense in risking it. I understand that. There's going to be a head count before there's a vote. I get it. So you should know, or maybe not yet, you tell me, you should know if this is coming back to you or not.
We don't know yet because what's going on right now is the House has created their priority. I'll give you the whole background because there's no secrets here. The House has created their priority bills. The Senate has created their priority bills. I was supposed to have a call with Representative Perryman today, and I just got swamped. So if you're watching, Leader Perryman, I promise I'll call you tomorrow because I have to get the minority parties because we're working great. I mean, it's a true story. You guys are getting a real inside scoop. We're working great together. Leader Perryman and I are literally going to have a call because he's been working with Leader Virgin on what the minority party wants, and then we're going to put it all together. So I don't know what bills are going to be heard right now. I know what our House priorities are, and I can tell you that that's on our House priority list, but we still haven't had those meetings to put it all together. And there's a reason for that, by the way. It's because the budget comes first. So the House and the Senate are meeting about the budget daily, multiple times a day. We're working on the background, the leadership team on the policy side. So the moment the budget's done, we're going to be ready to have our joint meetings to make sure we're ready. So it's not that we're putting it off. It's just that we have one constitutional duty, and that's pass a budget.
How much more than that are we going to get? A little, a lot? Do we have any idea? I mean,
yeah, no, that's a no.
Something.
No, I know. I'll tell you what I told the caucus. I would expect no fewer than 10 bills from the House and 10 bills in the Senate, no more than 50 bills from the House and 50 bills from the Senate. So that's where I think the minimum and max, I'm giving you min and max, minimum, maximum. To put that in perspective, that would normally be 300 to 400 bills that would make it out combined with everybody. A lot of that depends on what May looks like. So if we're coming in the first week of May, this is what Leader Dave and I are talking about. If it's safe to just continually meet, we're going to go back to work. I mean, we'll be up there every day. And if we're up there every day, we're going to have a whole lot more bills that we're going to hear. And it looks like, I'm hoping with the way things are trending, that we are going to be able to get back to work and do some pretty significant work in a safe mechanism. I mean, I don't know if everybody saw what I had to do when we passed the budget, where it was literally me and Leader Virgin on the floor, and I set up a system where we voted 10 at a time. That was a slow process and a weird process. But we're going to follow, as long as I'm in leadership and it's within my power. If we ask a regular citizen to do it, by golly, we're going to do it too. So if it stays no more than 10 in a room, that's what we're going to do.
Okay, well, I got to tell you, if you're not going to let us back in yet, I want you voting on as few bills as possible. I mean that. I really mean that because again, once you all walk in that building without us, it's groupthink. That's my fear. That's all of our fear is that our government doesn't hear us when we're not in there. And some people don't believe they hear us even when we're in there, but I've realized that you do. So and it scares me to go back to feeling the way I used to feel about the government. I don't want that right now. I don't need to feel insecure about what's going on up there.
Can I give you the counter argument though?
Of course.
Everybody feels the way you. This is the life of the floor leader. Every member feels the way you do, so long as you hear their bill. So they want to hear as few bills as possible as long as their deal gets done. So that's what, and it's
Yeah.
okay. That I jokingly say that's why they pay me the big bucks. But like that's kind of my job to cut that balance between how do we hear as many bills as possible, but still keep members together. But I have members that come up to me all the time, say, "Hey, stop hearing so many bills. Stop hearing so many bills. Stop hearing so many bills." I say, "Great. Of your 8 bills, how many do you want me to not hear?" Well, they're like, no. I mean, hear my 8 bills. Those are great bills. What I mean is, don't hear anybody else's deal.
Okay.
So,
Well, I don't have 8. I only have like 3, really. Like 3 I'm really worried about. Just my 3, that's all. Okay. All right. Well, Representative Echols, we are at 8:31. Sorry, we've gone a minute long. I know you've
we're
got a
fine.
million other things to do. Thank you very much for coming on here. Any last words before we go?
No, I just way to go, Oklahoma. I appreciate all you're doing. I appreciate you taking this serious. I can tell you that there are those of us like myself that care deeply. We are trying our best to be a stable presence in a really unstable time. You can always reach out to me, john.eccles at okhouse.gov. Follow my campaign at John Echols for House on Facebook, and please stay safe. That's what I care about most in all of this. Love on your families, love on each other, and we're going to get through this.
Okay, John, I certainly appreciate you coming on here, and I'm glad to hear everybody in the house is doing good. And everybody, we will get him back on here in about a week or so when he has a little more time. And until then, don't forget, I will open up the Blue Jeans app back up. I'll have it back open by 9:15. You guys want to come in and talk about what we talked about, or you guys just want to come in and do what you do every night? Have at it. It'll be open all night. I don't want anybody spending too much time at home alone without anybody to talk to. And I know a lot of people are upset about not having a big celebration on 420. I understand the desire for that. I'm not the only person with the Blue Jeans app. There's other people who are doing the same thing. I'll make sure it's open all day that day. This particular program holds up to 75 at a time. You guys are welcome to come in here. I think there's even a way to break off in small meeting rooms after that. And it's no charge to any of you, so feel free to use that. Don't sit at home alone. It doesn't help after so much time. We've got to start getting to communicate with each other again and get back to some sort of normalcy. So, all right, folks, that's it for tonight. Until next time, stay grumpy. I'll see you on the road.